Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. This is a quick bonus episode just with some awesome content from a whole bunch of new friends I made very recently as I spent a 3-day weekend up at Badagouche Outdoor Centre in Glenmore, Scotland. So this was for the 999 Reset event. It has been set up by a group of super diverse fire service personnel who have previously formed all sorts of stuff, walking groups, climbing groups. And the reason I wanted to do a quick recording about it is honestly how inspiring it is to see such a unique team come to do something like this in their complete spare time. This is not part of their professional role. This is not organized by any one specific fire and rescue service. So basically, it was like a whole adventure weekend in the absolutely beautiful Highlands. And we were lucky enough to have professional instructors for a whole host of activities. We had CrossFit, yoga, hill walking, scrambling, trail running, paddleboarding. And in the evenings, we had barbecues, live music, and some incredible speakers. We all know that being in nature can make us feel happier. It really is that simple. We get some sort of visceral connection that life is a bit more worthwhile. It reduces our levels of depression, anxiety, but nature doesn't always have to be something super intense and accessible only by the absolute physically fit elite people. Any amount of physical activity is better than none. So some of the walking, some of the yoga, some of the awesome activities that were ran over the course of this weekend was just such a unique thing to be involved in. The whole idea with this was an opportunity for people to get some precious time away, discover and reconnect with their physical and mental well-being. There's a whole dedicated team there. And again, it was such a diverse team. You know, there was firefighters, well-being staff, on call whole time, people that have been in control. And I wanted to record this sort of debrief after it had finished, just to really appreciate the people that put it together. Because a diverse team like that comes up with really new and innovative ideas that wouldn't be possible if everyone was the same. This is because different perspectives often result in better decisions. And even though it's done outside of any particular fire and rescue service, it's actually the best example of that first responder mindset. You know, bringing people of different backgrounds, different thoughts, different ideas together under this shared drive for the mental and physical well-being of first responders is just such an incredibly inspiring thing to be part of. And also, it acts as a great example. This is the first time 999 Reset have ran their event. So in this brief chat, you kind of get an insight into the biggest challenges in starting up something like this, you know, not realizing where the bottlenecks are going to be, the worry people aren't going to turn up, marketing it very well, seeing where the knowledge and the skills gaps are. I mean, they had a whole host of really professional and qualified instructors running their sessions, but the financial management aspect of it, you know, these things cost money, and securing that funding is a big challenge for people. You've got to get the right people in the right place, and you've got to be able to demonstrate leadership. I always say leadership is sometimes easier in the fire and rescue service because you have that stuff on your shoulder that tells people that they need to do what you want them to do. Where actually, when you're running a group of volunteers, that is true leadership. So I wanted to throw this out there, give you some insights. Hopefully you enjoy it. And we'll give the introduction that this was the Sunday morning after we'd had a whole weekend full of fun, late nights, activities out there on the water, up in the hills. People were knackered. So we managed to scurry ourselves away for a little bit of a private recording. The audio on this is pretty rough. We managed to get ourselves into basically like an old changing room / first aid room. So a big concrete building. So there is a bit of an echo throughout the entire audio. We couldn't manage to get that out. But I think it's such a valuable thing to share that I still wanted to bring it to you. So I hope you take some value from it. I hope you very much consider coming to the next 999 Reset event. It will be next year. They are looking to do more of these around the UK as the movement grows. You can have a look in the notes for the podcast and you will see a link to 999 Reset. But without further ado, I will leave you with the team from 999 Reset, and hopefully, perhaps you're listening to this while you're out walking the dog, on your bike, in the gym, driving to work, taking a bit of time for you. Look after yourselves, look after your first responders, and thanks for coming back to the podcast. We'll see you on the other side. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together.
Matt North.
Mandy Ironside.
Laura McCarty.
Andy Goldie.
Dougie Brotherston.
Sounds cool when he says that. I don't know why. Thick, just relax into the thick Scottish accent. So Andy, everyone survived so far.
Yes.
That's a pretty much a success, I think.
Absolutely.
How's the last couple of days gone? Because people want to know the colossal amount of planning that goes into this sort of thing. We were kind of talking last night that, is it going to be what we thought it was going to be? Yep. You know, there's a lot of stuff that goes into something like this, but it's been a pretty incredible weekend. Have you found it?
It's been all of that, and the anxiety-inducing situation we found ourselves in. Is the weather going to hold? It didn't. Did everyone turn up that said they were?
Well, the weather said it was going to be horrific, didn't it? Like, it said it was going to rain most of the weekend, and actually, I think we only had like a couple of 10-minute downpours, didn't we?
Yeah.
It wasn't actually like
too bad.
There was no tsunamis, but it probably would have put a bunch of people off. We were saying yesterday,
yeah,
people had paid for bits and didn't show up, but I think it was amazing for the first time.
Yeah, and the weather forecast threw a lot of curveballs in because the barbecue was some distance away from the kitchen, blah, blah, blah. These are the firefighting situations that we find ourselves in all the time at work anyway. Yeah. So we're just adapting to that ever-changing situation and just reassess, but it worked.
I always said, like, doing a post-mortem after stuff like this, which sounds morbid, but I mean, it's like how you thought something was going to go, and it's perfect, like when we go to jobs, we're like, oh yeah, we've done the procedures, it doesn't actually work. You know what I mean? Like, the procedures and how you thought it was going to go isn't how it actually goes, versus the reality of when you're at the incident. But then looking at it and going, well, actually, did we achieve the task? Yes. Could we learn something for next time? Absolutely. Not being like, oh, we think we're perfect, and it absolutely smashed it out of the park.
Totally, exactly that. The case in point with the Friday night, like you were saying with the weather, is you've got folk that are turning up, trying to pitch their tent in horrific biblical weather, and going, you know what, sacked it off and went home because it was that bad, and that's one of the things. Yeah. But then they came back later and it was all good, but it's one of these things you plan for, and already we've had discussions about, well, what can we do better next year? Yeah. And we're already starting to think about contingencies that we'll have and adaptations that we'll make for the next one already to kind of try and avoid that. So we'll still have the camping available, but obviously fast forward 12 months down the line, okay, we've not fully wound down from this one yet, but already you're taking notes.
You've got to take notes now.
You've got to take notes now, so you don't forget. 100% exactly that. So it's like, right, cool, we'll get the funding, we'll get the bank in, we'll get everything else squared away, so that we've got the funding available next year. Because that was what was like way back when myself and Andy and Laura came here. We spoke to Jonathan first of all, and he said, we've got the lodges that are available, and this is what it costs. And we had fuck all in the bank. Yeah. You know, we had jack shit to work with. And it was like, and that's the reality. You know, that is the reality. And folk are talking about, like, you know, hundreds and thousands of pounds, like it's pocket changes. Like, if you're a big charity or if you're a big organisation, you can write this off like it's nothing. And for us starting out, dipping into your own pockets, you've not got that ability.
Everybody sitting in this room today
is, you can go on with that.
Everyone sitting here today has made a personal financial contribution to making this happen, because there is no funds in the bank. In fact, the bank account is still just to be completed. So we've personally funded this.
And it's all just fag packet, Excel sheet, so-and-so's 50 quid, you're 300 quid, you're 80 quid, blah, blah, blah. Exactly. And then the last minute bit's like, oh shit, we haven't got some gas bottles. Someone needs to go and get all these serviettes. You know, Matt's sorting out all the bottle. It's like, well, you know what, I'll just put that through my own personal stuff for the minute, and we'll worry about it afterwards. And that's what people forget. It's like, I always think of the chicken and egg scenario. You've got to have, without being too corny, you've got to have a bit of hope and belief to get it off the line. Because looking at it, it's not actually a thing. But I always say, like a building or a passion or a project or anything, you have to almost audaciously believe it's there before it's ever there.
Absolutely.
And that innovation and that vision of what it's going to look like. And even yesterday, we were seeing how it was running in the pouring rain. We were like, it's still running. You know, everybody's having a great time. It was absolutely perfect. The weather didn't stop anything, which was really brilliant. And you know, as Dougie said, we're saying next year we'll block out all the pods, we'll have all the pods available, we'll have the lodges, you know, we'll have the funding.
Yeah, and all the campers this year have already booked that lodge for next year. Forget the tent.
Sincerely though, what an investment of faith in you guys and girls. They're like, oh, you know what? I've sent some photos to my friends. They love the idea of it. They want to book as well for next year. We're going to book for next year.
Yeah.
And that kind of pushes you guys and girls to be like, well, shit, we're definitely going to go again. Then we've got to do this.
Absolutely.
Social media has been amazing. Even over the last weekend, like I've been putting pictures up and things like that around the event, and we've had people inquire saying, "No, didn't know about this. Can you tell me more?" So even now, you know, that drive. And
how do you fight that frustration when you're like, what do you mean you don't know? We've promoted it, it's just, we put it here, we put it there, but that's what I was saying, I think, to both of you.
Word of mouth is so important, and I think, you know, everybody this weekend going back, speaking to their colleagues, speaking to their peers, and it just becomes that ripple effect that more and more people know, because people have enjoyed it, people have got things out of it, so that then they come back, but also their colleagues, their peers and things.
And that's what I've been saying the whole weekend. You've got to take that tactical pause to capture the moment, and not be the annoying person that's in everybody's face taking pictures and all that sort of jazz. But you're like, don't pretend that everyone is going to remember this. People don't like writing a feedback thing on a form. That's why stuff like the podcasting is so important, because people are not going to hear, they're not going to see, they're blind chance if they'll meet you when you're covering at a different station, or they meet so-and-so, they won't hear about it. So you've got to be willing to capture it and put themselves out there, because people would love to come, people would love to be at stuff like that. People have been, feedback's been amazing, you know, but I think I said to you last night, it's like building the best Ferrari and you're putting it in the middle of the woods and don't tell anybody about it. And you'll tell yourself, oh, maybe the Ferrari's really crap. Maybe I didn't actually do a good thing. Well, you did, but just not enough people knew about it. But also, it's a great stress test for it, I think, this weekend. Because if you had 600 people turn up, you know, we were talking about some of the logistics and like, okay, that would have been a bottleneck. That would have collapsed right there. That would not have worked.
Absolutely.
So capturing those things.
Yes. And this situational awareness of the environment of where we're trying to deliver the weekend is absolutely crucial. And one of the things that we took on board really, really early on is when Doug and I drove up here in January, the windscreen washers froze. So we nipped in, we're like what we're going to do? Like, we're going up the A9 and we're trying to scoot water out the window onto the windscreen. And the wipers are just freezing, so we can't see. So we're thinking, right.
Have you ever done on-call? Have you been on-call or retained? No. There you go. So like coming out December 1st, it's just head out the window driving, isn't it? It's just like, I forgot to put the blanket on the car last night, I did it for 10 years. I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this. Fuck it. You're just going.
As we arrive in Aviemore, like, you can hardly see, and because Doug and I like, do you know what, let's go to Aviemore fire station and see if we can get some windscreen wash. So we chat the door and Laura presents herself. How's it going? Laura, hiya, we're two firefighters. Laura, we're two firefighters from Edinburgh. We've just come up to Aviemore, we've got something going on, we don't know what it is, but we need some, can you help us? She's like, aye, get in. So all of a sudden, we had a conversation with Laura, what is it you're doing? Told Laura's like, if you need any help, let us know. And that is the perfect example of having the resources where they need to be. So Laura's boots on the ground and her team, they know the environmental situation or the area that we're going to be deploying into later on in the year. Laura knows all the connections in the area, and actually the retained firefighter station has brought all the raffle prizes together because everyone in the area is so generous and supportive of the rural watch commanders and the rural firefighters that put.
That's where I think of Scotland and the fire services operating in this, or now the One Fire and Rescue Service operating up here, similar to London, when people say, oh, I know Laura in Scotland, you must know Laura. It's like, you have any idea how big it is? How big the service is? How many did our widespread? You know, I speak to some of the instructors up here and they say, travelling from one station to another, it could be 6 hours away. You know, I'm like, Jesus, what? You know, they've got to go out to islands, which are also part. Now they are teaching the fire behaviour course, and I've got to get on a boat. I'm like, in a fucking boat? To go to the station? I'm like, so Laura, for yourself, like from that first conversation, just knocking and opening the door, did you anticipate being such an integral part of it? Obviously, there's many members of the team that have contributed to this, but what did you think he was talking about versus what has actually manifested itself?
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing, but I think it is, everyone brings something to it. It's not something you can go and do on your own, is it? No. It just reaffirms how important teamwork is, and that's what we all stand for, you know, and working together, and everyone's brought something into it. Even the participants that have come, they've got rolled up their sleeves and got stuck in, and now it's been tried and tested, and it has been a brilliant success.
Well, I was sous chef with a face full of smoke for an hour or so last night, and I felt, honestly, so let's go there for a minute, because Matt, there's loads of things I want to talk to you about. One thing I want to talk to you about is cooking on stations, but also like, you've done so much goddamn prep, and even just
we heard mac and cheese was one of the lunches for the first day. Some people were like, mac and cheese, really? And then every single person afterwards, because we'd had all of the extra sides and all of the flavourings and all the sprinklings and all this sort of stuff. It's absolutely stunning. No joke. Like dried onions. There'd been hours and hours, to me, what looked like prep had gone into all of this. And then the same with the barbecue. Is like, oh no, we have to temperature probe it, and then I want you to dip it in here when you turn it. And I'm like, I've fucking done barbecues before. I didn't know this was going to be this complex. I was getting like the whole brief. I was genuinely scared I was going to mess it all up. So talk to us about feeding the troops, Matt. What are you doing over this weekend? What kind of stuff's been on offer for people? Because people might be reluctant to come to something like this because they'll be like, oh, well, I don't want to eat freeze-dried crap all weekend and it's going to be like, ready meals or whatever. But the food was incredible.
Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I guess Cody said earlier about his need for firefighting, so there was caterers lined up. We subsequently weren't able to help. It's as you know, it's a busy weekend in Aberdeen, so everyone's extending themselves. So Goldie came to me and said that
can you just
politely nominate.
But I'm optimising his debt now because I owe him and he's building a house.
I'm not stupid. So initially it was just they were pretty set on having a barbecue. I think it gives the right image, and we booked out the little bothy and stuff like that. And I do think it was the right way to go. So yeah, initially I was my brief was 80 people, 80 people for a barbecue. And in the evening, and then a few days before, it was like, can we get a lunch?
And can we get a bar?
How often do you have that though? I know because people know you run a catering business outside of this. When people say, "Oh, I've got a great setup for a thing. Can you come and do your stuff there?"
Yeah.
And people's interpretation of having good facilities, and then like we're saying about the logistics of the barbecue being 40 feet away from whatever it was, and trying to navigate all that and not poison people with the food because everyone's woke up healthy today. How do you overcome that kind of pressure? Because we talk about pressure on the incident grounds, and people are like, because some people can get super funny, and so they should, about food. They're like, oh, is this shit cooked? That guy doesn't really know what he's doing. They see me just jumping in 5 minutes late, and they're like, he's preparing my food, that can make people nervous. And absolutely. You do want to do it right, and it is a genuinely serious thing.
100%. So the basically as a street food vendor, there's the pop-up markets are everywhere and things like that, and there's
cowboys all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone's got a French van or a or a horse box that they've got rocking and rolling. But the National Caterers Association have actually been really good in embracing it, and so what they've done is made it really easy for your a program for you to follow for your due diligence and things like that. So, and I think it's going off topic slightly, but they've done an incredible job at making things like this achievable by giving you systems to follow and stuff like that.
Talk to me about food around cultures, because I think this is a huge thing. We were talking about it the last few days, like watch table foods, teams eating together, I think is a really integral part of cultures. And I think when we all joined, it was every night shift, we'd always eat together. First day someone gets assigned to kitchens, and it wasn't just you making tea for the day, they'd be doing food. And people might have been prepping the day before, messaging each other, this is what I'm going to make, what does everybody want? I have a real concern that A, that's died a death a little bit, B, another factor is a lot of people never learn to cook these days, and like C, when they're on stations, people just pack lunch in it and not eating together. Like, you still cook a lot for obviously your watch, but not everyone has a chef on their station. How much of a role do you all think it plays in it? Is it an important thing still? Should we still do it?
Oh, it's huge. It's genuinely like at the core of watch culture. Like I joined Tollcross, and that Tollcross is a 3-pump station, and it's got a control centre on it. So
So what's that? 16-person watch?
It was up there when I started. Now it's down to 11. But
great big watches like that. I love them.
But you started off as a probie, and it was literally, for want of a better phrase, a baptism of fire. You were kicked in the kitchen, and there were like 21 covered you had to do. And if you as a sprog, you hadn't cooked for that many people in your puff, and so it was an amazing. If anything,
just to do those maths in your head as well. Like I remember my first day, I think I was cooking for 12 people, and I was doing fajitas. And I was like, how many peppers, onions, how much chicken do I need, how many wraps, and just trying to work it all out. Yeah. And I think I didn't have lunch for 2 days because I was like, there's not enough. I'll just not eat anything because
and it's cost you an exhaustion.
Yeah, and you're not working it out properly. Like, it's 25 quid, and everyone's like, it's good for a quid, Pete. Thanks. But that's a big part of character building as well, and that's almost a great little like stress test for them, like putting them under pressure in a different kind of scenario. Your team's relying on you, but I think it's such a massive part. I think it's a massive part of mental well-being as well, because then when you're sitting around those tables, you're dissipating that energy. You're talking about the incidents you've gone to. You're talking about your personal life. I mean, what's your guys' thoughts on it?
Matt hit the nail on the head, in my opinion. With it, it's the core of watch culture. It's like when you get back from the station after you've been at an absolutely honking job. You've had 2 hot wears. You're absolutely hanging out your arse. You get that bonding after a big job, whether it's been a brutal one, it's been a hard working one, a long one, whatever the job was. And I'm relatively new to the operational side of it, having worked in control previously and kind of sort of seen both sides. And you don't get it in control, and you do get it operationally.
What's it like for non-op staff? Because they don't have the same ability.
It's that level withdrawn. It's that level withdrawn. It's just it's a voice on the end of the radio. I mean, I don't know how much it is. I've been out of the control room for a good few years now, but it's. You are that level away. It's a voice on the radio. You could walk past them in the street, no idea who this person is. It's a little bit different at Toll Cross, where like Matt was based. I am based currently, because the East SDA control centre is based upstairs in the station. You see the control staff on a day-to-day basis. I know who this is. I can put a face to the name on the end of the radio. But for so many other stations that either haven't visited the control or are too remote, like you were saying, these stations are miles and miles, hours of journey away from the control centre. It's a face.
And you actually go through some very intense situations with those people and never meet them.
Yeah.
Like I have it with podcasting. Like I've had some deep conversations with people 2 or 3 times. I've never even met them. Like I met someone the first time a few months ago at the British Firefighter Challenge, and we'd first podcasted like 3 years ago, and he'd had a stroke since then, and then he'd had to learn how to walk and talk again, and we'd never even met. But when we met, it's like we've known each other forever, and I found that with control staff. I've known people, and then the idea of what you think they look like versus when you meet them, and you're like, oh, you're very different. Do you know what I mean? Because this is me speaking, nobody else, but I'm like, at 2 a.m, I fall in love with some of the control voices. Like, I bet we've got on really well. I'll tell you what, I love this one. I definitely ask them out. And then maybe they're great, maybe they're not great, but like they become an integral part of your team, but you never even met them.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean? It's
I had that visual experience when I was seeing you coming out the car. I was like, what the fuck? I've only seen you on the podcast previously, and I'm like, he's here. I've put my hand out for a handshake and you gave me a cuddle, and I got like someone needed. So but
it's crazy, isn't it?
You get that visual mental image of what you think people.
Laura, how do you find it with the on-call? Because that's another factor as well, isn't it? Because I did on-call retain for like 10 years, and I think that is another different layer of how we connect with each other, because a lot of times you spend time on stations when you're obviously not non-operational, or when you're not actually out on incidents, because you're there, you might see kids down there, you're there washing the cars. How do you think we deliver on that side of it?
It's different, because obviously when you come back from jobs, you have to make that point to kind of stay and have a cup of tea and talk through things, because people have lives to get back to, like their primary employment, their families, other commitments. But I think it's very community based. Like they'll come in and they'll give their time and they'll do a lot of stuff, and big on kind of getting together for charity, raising money for charity. Some of the guys in Aviemore were doing a walk for Macmillan Cancer Relief yesterday. So they walked through the Larragrew 25 miles. They raised over £1,600. So they'll give their time, I think. I don't know if I want to say more than Andy's giving me a thumbs up.
Oh, definitely.
It's different.
That was a silent acknowledgement. I don't want to hang myself.
No, I agree with you. Having done it myself for 10 years, it's like, I think they're more invested in it. Honestly, I'm just saying this. Like, I think whole on-call and retained firefighters are more passionate the whole time. Not as the complete rule. There are some that are incredibly passionate, but some people genuinely, obviously not saying this room, but some people are like, no, it's just a job. And if I don't enjoy it anymore, don't pay well enough, I'm going to go and do something else. Whereas a lot of on-call, they ain't doing it for the money.
Yeah.
A lot of retained are not there because they're saving for the next holiday. It's a big why for them, I think.
Yeah, and it's protecting their community. And that's, I think, the reason that they join and the reason that they stay there. And it's getting harder and harder to recruit people into that.
Yes.
As people in smaller rural communities are working out with,
They go and get a job somewhere else, they get a job in London or whatever, they can't commit to that. And especially in some of the more affluent areas, like it's not worth their time, certainly from a money perspective, but even just contributing the time. You say to them, okay, with the minimum contracts, whatever, I think where I was from, it's 72 hours a week. Some places have gone out to like 90. See, some places do 48. Like you can do a minimum contract of 48 hours. And I don't know why we wouldn't do that. But yeah, 90 is massive. You say to someone, so 90 hours, 90? 90 you want me to be available, not 9. Yeah, and they're like, no.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard, you do 10 hours every night, you'll build it up, and they're like, there's still only 7 days. And I don't want to get caught out every single night. So it is really, really hard, I suppose, that aspect.
Yeah, you don't get that. I noticed that from working with these guys. Your days off, so it's like 2 days, 2 nights, 4 off, and then there's 18 days off.
That's it. The on-call and stuff.
How do I transfer it?
They do so much. They do so much. Talk to us about the wellbeing aspect of the money. I mean, let's go back to that food conversation for a minute, because these are my words, not yours, but like a lot of services have got rid of their cooks and chefs on stations. Fine, I get it. We've got to watch the pennies. A lot of us have all just got pay rises in the last strikes and all that sort of jazz, but culture is always a hard thing to argue for, and well-being's sometimes a hard thing to argue for, because we're built on statistics, and unfortunately we see the rising levels of suicide. The biggest costs for illness, I think, stress overtook musculoskeletal injuries a few years back, so now long-term stress is, I think, the biggest cost to employers. So we know the cost of doing it wrong, but then when we're looking at stations and going, I want to see your diary full, I want to see what you're doing all day, you need to show me that you're being productive. Well, being productive is not always the moments where the well-being takes place. So how, from your lens and scope, and when you look at services, how do you square that circle?
It's a passion of peer support. I think peer support is so important. So from an organisational perspective, making sure that you've got that culture embedded, that you're from a central point, that you're actually instilling and prioritising well-being and mental health and physical health, and making sure that they both combine. But from a well-being perspective, I feel peer support's really important, and that's both in the workplace and out the workplace. Having that ability to. How
do you facilitate those conversations? So when people feel like, but I'm not qualified. I'm not I'm not a psychologist. But people say that, and I'm like, okay, I've done a few courses, but it's just caring about people. People are so worried about doing it wrong, and some people, the true secret is, well, what if I ask Matt if he's okay, and he just breaks down in tears? Jesus, what am I supposed to do about that? And people say, I don't want to ask because I'm being polite, but really they're scared to ask in case he just goes, I thought about driving off a bridge yesterday. And you're like, what am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah, I think it's really important to make sure that people have got the toolkit and the resources there. One of my parts of my role is leading on the Mental Wellbeing Champion programme for the organisation, and that's kind of based on, you probably heard it before, the Blue Light Champion programme. But what we've done is added in an extra few layers to support staff.
So for people that are totally unfamiliar, because some of our listeners that don't even work in the emergency services maybe want to get into it, and some services will be a long way further back on their journey of wellbeing than perhaps you guys and girls are up here. So for people, give us a little whistle-stop tour of what that looks like in the way that we support our firefighters.
Yeah, so a mental wellbeing champion is someone who predominantly, and most importantly, is that confidential, friendly ear, someone who can listen, someone who can share signposting information, like key signposting, whether it be local level, whether it be national level, be that friendly ear for someone that's got the toolkit, they're fully trained, the way the kind of pathway of the champion programme that I've designed with the wellbeing team is that it's a core training programme that you'll do before you become a champion, and it has a mix of training, so it's not just about mental health, it's about communication, how do you listen to someone, how do you ask questions,
I love that you're doing that bit.
All that sort of stuff. That it's not just about the wellbeing, it's the kind of people aspect as well. And then the journey throughout, I can always say it's not always a big bang of an incident that affects people's mental wellbeing. It can be a lived experience. So it's about things that might be going on at home, different situations, different illnesses, different life experiences, historical things. How can we support? So a part of the programme is that we develop engagement sessions with partners, and both internal and external, across the service, that we invite the champions in to come into a session, learn a little bit more about that subject, not to be subject matter experts, but to know what that might feel, what it might look like, but also key signposting that they can share that information with. Because as you said before, that getting round the table, station environment, you know, having a cup of tea, having their meals, that's when really you have them conversations, you know, and open up to people. So if there's someone on the watch...
You've got to have a toolkit in your head already
and if
when
somebody's
those moments
got
arise.
that, it becomes that ripple effect. They then have the conversation. If somebody's, you know, saying in that environment, I'm struggling with this or whatever, they can have that private word with them to say, here's some signposting, have you seen this resource that we've got, you know, in the iHub or platforms, whatever it may be, but even externally, here's what we've got, you know, employee assist programs and things like that. So it's really important at that level that the peer support and the information and training is there for them, so that they can...
I love the focus on the soft skills aspect of it as well. I run a course sometimes, we call it How to Listen So That Others Want to Speak, because sometimes in services, this thing sometimes comes with rank, like the head mental health first aider officer will be a group manager or something, or the trim officers all need to be crew managers or as a minimum. And I'm like, some of these people have got really crap emotional intelligence, really poor interpersonal skills. You know, they don't, so they just have a leaflet for signposting, but they don't work on just general social cue, mirroring, paraphrasing, open questions, you know, how to position yourself in a way that others want to continue to have a conversation, how to set up a room for a great conversation. Little things like that, people don't put the time into, and they just see it more of as a hard skill, like a procedure, like they go, if this happens, A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And men are terrible with it as well, we're solution orientated. I hear what you're saying, Matt, this is what you need to do. This is the person you need to go and speak to, let me know how you get on. I'm like, did Matt feel heard? Probably fucking not. Yeah, because you just interrupted him and tried to signpost him straight off. Yeah, but I'm signposting him to the experts. Maybe Matt needs an expert, but maybe you just wanted to be heard. Yeah, maybe just being heard was enough to pull him back from the edge a little bit. Yeah, you might go, no, I don't think I need counselling, because some people feel like there's some big negative connotations and judgment that goes along with that. Some people just want to be heard, and I think it's a massive aspect. And I love that you're folding it into the work that you do, because a lot of services aren't doing that. They're just trying to do a procedural knee-jerk, because the HMI, FRS and all those sort of people, and then all the mental wellbeing, they're saying you've got to do something about this. So it's like they've got to tick the box, and the easiest way to tick the box is just pay an external company and give out a leaflet. And it's like, right, box ticked. Yeah. Whereas going in and doing something like you guys and girls have done for this is actually probably ticks the whole matrix of boxes, but the sincere why behind it wasn't, it was, we feel the pain, we see what people are struggling with.
We've got a passion, you know, all of us have got a passion for, and I think we've all got our own lived experience, we've all got our own backgrounds, but we've come together with individuals' skill sets, you know, and it's made this weekend. I think capacity wise we've had about 70 people here this weekend, and that was perfect numbers to see how this runs. But I think having that passion behind us and looking after, you know, organisations, and we've got that kind of organisation work going on, but from an external point of view, looking and building on them relationships, not just from a fire service point of view, but from the police, the ambulance, the emergency responders that are out there. We've opened this up to everyone, and the good part about that is that creates that network of support when you are at incident. You might meet someone at an incident, you're like, oh, you were at that emergency services weekend, you know. It builds up that rapport.
We're ticking the Jessup box without even knowing it.
Yeah, exactly.
For all those managers listening out there, it's important to acknowledge some people that aren't in the room as well, because things like this are able to take place. People like John and stuff like that. I mean, we're going to release an episode with John's talks. We recorded his talk. Great conversation on PTSD, but just give people a little whistle-stop tour of your initial interactions with John and the appetite and the drive from him.
So, round back maybe 15 minutes or so, I was telling you that Doug and I arrived here in January, the window's frozen. So the reason for that visit to Aviemore was to meet with Jonathan from Ballygoosh, and that initial contact had been made when I was in Aviemore on holiday. I just walked into the Tourist Information Centre and said, look, I'm looking to hold an event, where can I go? And the tourist information, again, as Laura describes, the community aspect, she went, we don't have anything on the books, but I know a guy up in Ballygoosh, he's as mad as a box of frogs, he'll take a challenge, he's ex-forces, he likes to take on what he doesn't know is going to be the outcome. I'm like, that's the guy.
Salt of the earth guy.
That's the guy I need to speak
bulletproof,
to.
Isn't he?
So then Dougie and I later came up on that weekend, and we met in here. It was knee deep in snow. We met Jonathan, introduced ourselves, told him what our our goals or our aims were, we say that we've got an idea, and well, what is the idea? And like, well, we don't actually know how to describe it, but we've got this kind of image of what it is we're trying to create. Will you help us out? He's like, how many is it for? And I said, I don't know. He says, what accommodation are you going to book? I'm like, I don't know. well, what weekend is it? And I'm like, I don't actually know.
Like, I'm in.
That was it. He's saying, lads, sounds like a cracking idea. So,
I love it. I love the thought you put into it.
So I
just on it.
I got the shivers up the side of my neck thinking, this guy is as mad as me. We're going to go on just fine. And all of a sudden, the relationship started to build. Yeah. So much so that as part of a further recce for the weekend, my wife and I came up just to spend time in Aviemore and booked a pod. Yeah. Because you can recce it and speak to as much people as you like, but until you live the experience,
you got to get boots on the ground.
You get the feel for where the tap is, the bathroom, does the door open properly. You know, until you're here for a few days, you get that sort of smell and taste of your environment. Yeah. But Jonathan, again, he didn't know that we were coming up. I didn't want to tell him that I was coming up.
No,
we just booked
you'll experience it as not like, I'm putting on the red carpet for you. Like, exactly. Is it shit or not?
Just want to come and experience by the goose. So then I got out the van and then I seen Jonathan walking across, he's looking, and then he looks again. Andy, I'm like, Jonathan, why did you not tell me you were coming up? Are you staying? No. I'm like, yeah, we're staying. Again, the generosity opened up. You can see his brain working. Leave it with me. So I'm like...
Did he give you a foot rub as well? He gave me a foot rub. Did he? Great guy. Soft hands.
Has he?
Great kisser. No.
He comes back a couple of hours later. I've squared it away. My wife's preparing a barbecue. You and Lisa are invited round tomorrow night. No questions asked. We'll provide the refreshments and the food. Game on. And that's the generosity that he got. We sat in his garden on the second night, got to know him a bit better on a personal level, and then when we heard some of the story that Jonathan, that you started off with the PTSD, I said, Jonathan, would you like to do a presentation on the evening of this weekend that we don't know when it's happening, we don't know how many people are coming, again he's like, absolutely. And that's what you saw and experienced on Friday evening with the PTSD.
He really is one of those ride or die sort of people. I forget that film, but there's a meme that always goes on social media where I think it's Ben Affleck or something's coming over to one of the other actors. He's like, I need you to do something. I can't tell you what it is. I can't tell you why we're doing it. We can never speak about it again. And he goes, okay, who's driving? And it's just like, it's that moment like, yeah, I just trust you. Let's just do it. You know, we're both going to head into this thing, but I know the sort of person you are, and it's, you know, we're going to make it work.
And there's massive anxiety for everybody here. Even Matt, that came on at the last minute, and that was a reactive response to a request from us being let down. And he stepped up to the plate and
he's seen the most organised out of the lot of you. I'm just going to be brutally honest. You know, it did seem there was an air of winging it until Matt turned up and started getting shit done.
And then he got a bigger round of applause than the band last
night. I know, well, you said an army marches on its stomach. You know, cultures are built around the table. I want to be super respectful of everybody's time. We've still got activities going on today. I'd be remiss if I didn't give people a heads up of what's cracking for next year. Now, I'm not going to put us on the spot for dates and things like that, but for people that didn't come, what activities did we do that think went really well? What are we thinking of continuing to doing? Give us that sort of wrap up amongst the team.
So I'll start on that then as you looked over. So the next year is going ahead.
Okay.
Absolutely. The benefit is that we've got 12 months thereabouts to get a date and everything in place.
Yeah.
The charity is set up, so we've got less of that to do. There's loads of debriefing processes that we need to go away and have a discussion and look at some hard facts.
The heavy lifting foundations was this year, wasn't it? Like the setups and the bank accounts and registering the charity and blah, blah, blah. Now it's turning good into great.
Yeah. And looking honestly at us and ourselves now, as we've developed this into a charity and the trustees, because the charity is now formed and the number is there, and the charity will always be the charity. And over the years to come, trustees and other organisations come and go and will come and go. It's important that we continue to get more trustees on board, and we're looking for another 2 just now at the minute. Mandy's got them lined up, and then we've got a very diverse trustee board, and it needs to remain fresh and current because people's desires and requests will change.
And people's lives change as well. People's the demands, family members get poorly or something changes in your own personal life. You know, it's important. And people forget registering charities is actually a very complex thing. You've got to do it right. There's a lot of things that actually look like a charity, but they're not.
They're not. And that's where all the work in the background is done. And before I overtake the whole final shutdown, what I wanted to say is our main drive, or one of the main drives next year will be to get, and I'll use this as an advertising moment if I may.
Please do.
We're looking for financial support for this. And if there's any corporate sponsors out there, big corporate companies that have the financial capacity, or anyone in the area or in the UK or across the world that hears these podcasts and has the opportunity to help finance and fund our charity as a not-for-profit organisation. We do this alongside our full-time job as members of the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. And if we get enough corporate or financial funding donated to us, to our registered charity, then what our goal next year will look like to reduce the barrier even further to those that are being reluctant to get access to the outdoors. For those that have attended this weekend, they've had to pay for camping, their fuel costs to get here. We've had to charge them a fee so that the professional instructors get their money. And that can never be negotiated with these people that support us. So if we get enough financial contribution between now and the next event, what we're looking to do for all those blue light responders across the UK, it's a perfect opportunity for members of the public. We've got Just Giving pages. All those people that are really in support of blue light responders across the UK, step up and support, because then next year, if we get enough money, we will make these clinics that people attend free of charge. So the blue light responder comes here, there'll be a cost of 20 quid to turn up. That's to show buy-in, because if you give something away for free, everyone will take one, and then
that's the value for it.
No one shows up. So we give them, pay 20 quid, covers the barbecue that Matt hopefully is coming next year.
He said ramen.
There's no camera.
Matt's not getting it off.
He's going to delegate that one, I think.
But then the blue light responder gets access to a clinic for free. They turn up. Mandy has been super with the organising, so I'm using Mandy as an example. Rock up next year, Mandy, I'm here to pick a clinic. Mandy says, there you go, pick a clinic. And it's free, because our charity has been able to raise enough money in the bank through generous donations through the public, so that blue light responder who is on the brink of stress, or no even stress, so this is not just a weekend for those that are not being able to cope at work or having complex backgrounds outside of work. This is an area where we don't hammer mental health and well-being. It's like a relaxed environment with a good avenue to experience outdoor sporting activities for free, ideally next year. So for those people...
Well, I'll be honest with you as well, and I'll give you an inside loop behind some of these big corporate companies. They're paying 10 and 15 grand to go to a lot of these big national events, and they are seeing very little return from them. They're having handshakes with a few chief fire officers and not getting any return on their investment. And they're very quickly realising that they're not actually connecting with the first responder. And I know that because I speak with them on a very regular basis, and that's why a lot of them have started working with the podcast, because they're like, we're not really reaching anybody, we're not getting any return. You know, it's just like we're all walking around, oh, no, you're important. No, you're important. No, you're important. And nothing's actually happening. And they're turning around going, that's cost us 20 grand for the weekend. What did we actually get from that thing? And they're looking to do stuff like this Cheshire Fire Challenge, British Firefighter Challenge. They want to engage with stuff like that because selfishly for them, it is great exposure, but they're actually making a difference to the person. So no, it is a huge difference.
And regardless of what that person gets as an individual from a blue light responder, forget keeping them at work. Forget making them mentally robust so that they can come here and relax. We're dealing with human beings here that are employed by an employer, and we all have a duty of care to make sure that that employee is looked after the best way that they can. And the financial restrictions and the government shuffle of where the money's being spent across all the organisations, we're aware of that. But as Mandy had said, and Laura, we're passionate. This charity's been formed, and we're providing a place to come and have canoe and kayaking, climbing.
Well, I think of it like women in the fire service. I don't know if any of you have ever been to that, but they've set it up now where their services, they've got the right financial programs in place that their services can pay to send their people to that, and therefore they're providing a wellbeing facility for a lot of their staff. They haven't got to do it themselves because they haven't got to employ someone in service, another wellbeing lead to manage it and then worry about all that employment status and stuff like that. But if you guys and girls could set that up where the services can go, what is it? Bloody hell, it's 20 quid a person, great. Can I buy 12 spaces?
So Mandy came
up
with
that. And then they put it in their
own
corporate comms and they send it out and go, we, Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service, Abbeymoor, whoever the hell, Cornwall, are going, we can give you this. We've got 10 spaces for the service, please expressions of interest to your wellbeing lead. That structure works, and Women in the Fire Service have done a fantastic job of it, but this is not a competition, no one's competing against WFS, it's a different thing. Closing thoughts, anything for anyone else, what do you love about it, Dougie?
All of it. Genuinely, without trying to sound cheesy, it's gone an awful lot better than I thought it was. I thought it was going to be 12, 14-hour days of us running around like headless chickens on damage control, adding point number 1,000 and fucking whatever to the list of things that we fucked up, forgot, didn't get right, or went wrong.
That someone might hurt themselves, or might go wrong.
Well, that's
everyone's
it.
super safe as well.
You can sit and you can overplan and you can overthink about all these contingencies, and you can't have a contingency for it. Like you were talking about earlier on, you've got to be, it sounds cheesy to say again in the fire service, you've got to be dynamic. I hate saying that, but it's true. It is true.
But you're actually engaged with some great professionals to run these events. It's not like... you know a little bit about paddleboarding, Laura. I tell you what, you're running paddleboarding and you're like, I'm going to go and win this.
Because we're charging folk for it, and like Andy said on your first podcast, it started from humble beginnings. We're not officially certified. We're just two guys that go hill walking and happen to know a bit about it. So we'll take folk with us, we'll show them the ropes. It's not officially sanctioned or certified in terms of being professional guides. It's just a bunch of folk taking their mates for a walk or a climb, borrow our kit. Right, I've got a spare mountain bike, give it a shot. I've got a spare XYZ, give it a shot. And it went from there. And the thing we wanted to do more than anything else is we wanted it to be something that was recognisable and professional to other people. Because a lot of people that are attending this weekend are people that we know personally and work with and have kind of shown support on that level. It's gone out to the wider folk. And
that's what it needs for those fire and rescue services to be engaged. They need to go, is it safe, Mandy? Is it actually, ignore what all the other little firefighters are saying, is it safe from your corporate head? And you're like, yeah, we've engaged with professionals, we've got the certification, it's all registered, we're not cowboying it.
We've done a lot of work in the background to make sure that we've got all the right licences, insurance, all the hard work in the background to make sure that the planning was right. Because this is obviously completely separate to all the services, but we have wanted to make sure that we show that we are very professional in what we're doing, and that's why all the skill sets from every one of us around the room, have been really important. But having the licensing board, having the professionals in has been really important as well, And even last night, I was talking to a couple of the locals who had bought tickets who were Scottish Ambulance Service, and they were like, you can get such and such for quad biking next year, you can get clay pigeon shooting, so already we can expand on these professional services. We had a great amount of activities booked
clay
for this year,
but
awesome.
Next year,
let's bring some live guns on site.
Let's
really get spicy.
Matt can shoot the dinner.
Just chewing on some lead.
But those sort of resources have been really, really important, so we can only make it bigger and better next year as well, so it's been great.
Anything from yourself, Laura?
Yeah, I just reiterate what they've said, but I think it was amazing watching on Friday night all the little pieces come together. Like when the people came for the talks and people had donated cakes, they were fabulous. Just sitting back and watching everything, kind of all that hard work pay off. And I think we just really like to welcome anyone that wants to get involved in whatever way to support 999.
I think it's important to do that and see that, because I say it when on wedding days, like when I go to people's weddings and stuff, I'm like, make sure you pause for a minute during the day, because otherwise you'll miss it. Just step back holistically, do that condor and put your head up and go, wow, we put this together and we've done a great job. Let's acknowledge each other for a second. Because you're right, the whole thing will just go by in a whirlwind and you forget what even happened.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the team should be very proud. And all the people that have, put in, because it's friends and family as well. It's been, like Mandy said, it's been a lot of work on top of, our full-time jobs as well, So look forward to more people coming on board and getting involved in the future. And Matt's cooking, whatever he's cooking up next year.
What we're having next year, man. Bring us home with the good news about what we're having next year. How much steak did we have? And that was good steak.
That was good steak.
It wasn't like, crappy pork chop. I love pork chops, but it's like, it wasn't some dregs of meat from somewhere. It was bringing out some serious, it wasn't like all injected with water. It was really nice food. You do see that? You go to a catering place and you're like, oh, shit,
Nah, I nailed it.
What are we having next year? Will we have more steak?
He's doing it. The thing is, he knows that this has been recorded, so because he knows that I'm going to play it back to him if he commits verbally right now. Hey, listen, the thing is, he's in. Of course you're in, right?
we'll work
not me.
I'd be remiss if I didn't offer people the way to actually connect. So, I mean, for many of you, for corporate people, firefighters, first responders, ambulance, police, or even the big companies, all the services, what is the best way to get in contact? Because we'll put these notes in the notes below for the podcast. Is it an email? Is it Instagram? Is it the website?
We have
What's
loads
the best
of
places?
We've got lots of different ways, mediums.
Matt's
that people,
personal number.
I know.
Contact.
Definitely, yeah. No, we've got lots of different mediums that people can get in contact. So obviously we've got the Twitter page, the 999 Reset. We've got the Instagram page as well. They can DM us there. We've got Facebook group. We've got Facebook page, and we've got the email as well. So we can link all that to the,
what is the email address,
podcast.
Man?
It's reset.emergencyservicesweekend@outlook.com.
So reset.emergencyservicesweekend@outlook.com.
Yeah.
And the Instagram and Facebook, is it 999
Reset?
Nothing in between, is there no
Underscore.
underscore? So 999
underscore reset for Twitter and Instagram, and the website is in progress.
We can link it all to the podcast.
We'll put it in the notes for people. Just have a look underneath this and you
Yeah.
can find the links for it. Thanks for a great weekend, guys. Really, really enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting us, and see you again next year.
Perfect.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks very much, you.
Firefighters Podcast is put together to develop, inspire, and hopefully even motivate those individuals who have chosen to serve our communities and be part of the first responder family. It's brought to you by myself, operational firefighter Pete Wakefield. If you have enjoyed today's episode and you want to see the podcast continue, please head over to our Patreon page where you can support the ongoing efforts of the podcast. Please hit that follow, subscribe, or rate button on whatever platform you're listening to. Please support your emergency services responders, and thank you for listening.